Hail there. Thanks for that, Jessica Le Mazurier in the newsroom. Yes, it's time for the France 24 debate, 2 weeks to the day after the September 11th attacks in Libya's second city that killed 4, including the U.S. ambassador.
I would like to begin today by telling you about an American named Chris Stevens.
The U.S. president's been paying tribute in front of world leaders at the United Nations in New York. Barack Obama making the killing of Stevens in Benghazi a matter of principle in the fight against intolerance, he says. On the eve of that speech, the U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton vowing more support for Libya's president, who in return pledged to bring to justice those who killed the ambassador. Last Friday, angry residents of Benghazi took the law into their own hands, storming the offices of Salafist militias suspected of the September 11th attack on the consulate. But on Monday, another militia started rounding up those who'd taken on Ansar al-Sharia. Gaddafi's gone, but the daunting challenge of disarming Libya remains. And how do you bring lasting peace? Today in the France 24 debate, Libya put to the test. And with us to talk about it from Tripoli, Mohammed Abu Sidra. He's mediator between the Libyan government and Ansar al-Sharia. From Washington, a political scientist and author Walid Fares, who's also foreign policy advisor to Mitt Romney's campaign. Welcome back to the debate, sir. Welcome as well to Pierre Connaissant, who teaches at the French Political Science Institute Sciences Po, and France 24's Douglas Herbert from our International Affairs Desk, who's been watching all the speeches at the United Nations this Tuesday. The France 24 debate, where you can always weigh in on the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter. You can find us at François F24. In a moment, we'll be going to Tripoli, where we hear that there's been an exchange of gunfire outside of the National Congress building. We hope to get the latest on that from Marine Cazalis. What we see, Pierre Connaissant, looking from the outside in, is a confusing myriad of different militias. Some are described as clans, some are described as politically motivated. The glue holding all of them together was they all together fought against Muammar Gaddafi.
Yes, I quite agree with you. I mean, there was a similar union during the revolution, which means that today everybody has armaments, small arms usually, and the rivalry, because two kinds of legitimacy, which means the political legitimacy coming from the votes, and the legitimacy coming from the Sharia, from the Quran, means that today the trouble between these two trends mainly means that there are a lot of fights. It happened in Benghazi a few days ago, but nothing it means that it will stop, because there are so many armaments in Tripoli and Benghazi and main cities today that the authority of the state is not stabilized.
Walid Fares, at the end of last week, the outcry against the September 11th attack resulted in the ransacking of the headquarters of 2 militia compounds in Benghazi, one belonging to the Islamist Ansar al-Sharia militia, the other to an independent militia called the Abu Slim Brigade. What are your thoughts on what transpired at the end of last week? Is this a sign that which is the real Libya standing up at this point?
Well, for the international community, for Washington and its allies, what is the only partner that we need to have in terms of government to government is the Libyan government, the elected Libyan government. But it's very important to understand that those militias and those networks are not overnight born. They are the results of how the Libyan uprising took place. We all remember that when it started in Benghazi, you had 2 types at least. One, which were the former military of Gaddafi, who rose against him, people in the military, in the bureaucracies, and the other were militias, most of which have received weapon and support from outside sources, and most of which, as we see right now, are Salafist in nature. So when Gaddafi went down, what we see right now is a plethora of militias, mostly Salafist, plus ethnic militias to the west and to the south, and a rising government. Washington will stand with the rising government, there's no doubt about it.
We're pleased now to be joined by Mohammed Abu Sidra in Benghazi. Thank you, in Tripoli rather. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. your thoughts over what has happened, what has changed over the last 2 weeks in Libya since the killing of the ambassador. Is Libya a different place?
Well, thank you very much. Well, I don't think Libya is a different place now, but it is certainly a better place if we look at it during the Gaddafi's days. And what has taken place last week wouldn't change the fact that Libya will be going ahead and will be achieving many good things which we never dreamt about during Gaddafi's days. Yes, we have to admit that there is some kind of mess, especially to do with security, but not as bad as others would like to see it. The other fact is that many people now are talking about the brigades, which some of them call them militias, and to which I don't agree with that. They are brigades. They have fought Gaddafi, and they've done very well during the liberation war, and blaming them for what is happening. In fact, I don't think it is correct and it is just, because the first to be blamed is the government, who haven't taken steps which can include those brigades within the army and the police and in other sides of the country corporations here. Now, before we go to what has happened last week, we should see two main reasons for this event. First of all, the insult which has been directed towards our symbols, namely our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
But this was a premeditated attack,
that,
it seems. It was more than just, this wasn't just a spontaneous demonstration. They used RPGs. They seemed to know where the safe house was inside the consulate compound. These were people who were looking to cause serious damage.
Well, to use RPGs and others, that is not a strange thing, because Libya now is full of weapons of different types and even sizes. The other thing is that we all know that the ambassador was not killed. He died as a result of a suffocation. So he was not meant. And if you look to certain videos which have been put on YouTube, you can see the people were saying Allahu Akbar. They were happy of saving that man, but unfortunately he died. And we all were sad for that. And they didn't even know that the ambassador was there. Now we have to ask the people who put them in what they call the safe room in the embassy to leave him until he suffocated. And the people who got him out, they were the revolutionaries, the people who guarded also the vote centers, and the people who faced Gaddafi's forces when they came to Benghazi. So these people are exactly the same people who tried to save the ambassador. But unfortunately, it was a little bit late.
All right, let me ask Wali Fares about this. What have you been able to piece together as to what was premeditated and what wasn't on September 11th?
Well, the president today at the United Nations in front of the whole world said that this was an attack, that we lost an ambassador. The ambassador was killed. He was tortured before he was killed. We have video, we have YouTube, we have reports mentioning that this was an attack to target the ambassador. There was a previous attack against the same location. And of course, if individuals have RPGs at home and mortars, they're not going to wake up one day, even if they're very angry, and then come in units and storm as a military attack. What we've seen there are two things at the same time. There were demonstrators, as in Egypt and as elsewhere, who were justly angry. But there were also a unit that is part of a network. The president of Libya said this is a terrorist attack. So I don't know why we are deviating from the facts on the ground. I think we should be focusing now, what can the Libyan government do to dismantle those networks that did this and could do more in the future?
And before I bring in Douglas Herbert on this, I just want to go quickly to Tripoli. Our correspondent Marine Cazalis is joining us from the capital. And to give you an idea that it's not just Benghazi where people are armed to the teeth. Marine, we understand that there was an exchange of gunfire outside the National Congress building this Tuesday.
Yeah, well, it's really hard to happen exactly. I'm right now just in front of the Congress, and the situation is really back to normal. Like, there are only a few policemen and 2 police cars standing in front of it, so that's about it. But I've been told that the situation has been pretty tense few days around the Congress, with people coming up and with their claims for the government. Yesterday night, a few men camped in a tent outside the Congress, but it's only today in the afternoon that tension reached. People in front of the Congress wanted to enter it to show the anger of the government and especially the Prime Minister, Mustafa Abu Sidra, but obviously the security didn't want to let them in, so that's they opened fire, but no one has been killed, no armed, and really the men only shot fire in the air from what I've been told. And this afternoon on the pavement, one could read "Done with Abu Sidra," and the name of several brigades, notably that of Taruna. So far, the situation is not really clear. Some say the men are former fighters who want more recognition, and someone outside the Congress told me that former rebels who are now under the authorities of the government, they came to Tripoli to see the government and to talk to members of the Congress. Then the anger, and because they want more, they want information basically on the troubles they're getting in areas outside Tripoli, because these men, they're fighting in areas such as brigades, where some of them are being killed, and they want the government to recognize that and to get information from that. So supposedly several former fighters under the government authority were killed recently. So the men came to have conversation and recognition and to talk to the members of the government.
All right, so a volatile situation, a lot of tension, but nobody injured. So far, it seems. Marine Cazalis, thanks for that update from Tripoli. Douglas Herbert, your reaction?
Well, I was first of all going to address the issue of whether it was an attack or not, and I mean just to be very clear here, the Obama administration initially, it's true, in the very early hours and days after the incident, was saying it was more a spontaneous uprising, violence, as you said, instigated by the anger over the anti-Muslim film produced out of California. But then right after that, you've had a string of administration officials, and this was before Barack Obama's speech today before the UN, calling it a terrorist attack. You had Jay Carney, the White House press spokesperson, addressing the Washington press corps, essentially saying it is self-evident at this point that what happened in Benghazi was a terror act. You had that repeated by other officials. Now, until today, you had not had Barack Obama himself using the language terror attack. But as you heard Walid Faris say before, he did use the term attack today. He described it as an attack. So it does seem like the Obama administration has come around squarely to the view that while there were a lot of demonstrators there, probably legitimately very angry about that film with no intention of actually going on the attack, there was perhaps a very small clutch of people, and there are 50 FBI investigators, I believe, right now on the ground trying to determine what happened, forensic investigators. It's very clear that a small clutch of people may have hijacked or manipulated, exploited this anger in order to launch what is becoming increasingly clear, some sort of attack in some form or other, terror or not.
All right, some sort of attack, some form or another. What is certain is that oil-rich Benghazi is a volatile place, a point once again driven home by the Guardian newspaper this Tuesday in an editorial entitled "The Militias Bite Back." They write how a whole CIA operation was based in the lightly guarded embassy annex, which came under attack. It's another reminder that giving military backing to an uprising provides no insurance policy for what follows. Pierre Conessa, do you have this feeling that the world had kind of moved on after the killing of Muammar Gaddafi and maybe underestimated what was going on? And did Washington underestimate how volatile the situation is?
Well, it's difficult to say if it was underestimated or not, because, no one could have been able to say when the military operation has been decided what would be the consequences. Because just remember that the military operation was decided after UN resolution just to protect the Benghazi part of the country. And what happened following, that was the stockpiles of armaments and weapons, etc., which has been used for the revolution and which has been widespread in all the region. So I think that this situation is quite similar to the Iranian Revolution. You remember when the students were attacking the American embassy, because there was a kind of competition, in the revolution between the most extremist and I would say the serious guy who knows exactly which means to manage and to rule.
Of course, the difference being in that in this case we're seeing a blowback from other people in Benghazi who don't agree.
And I would like to point out the difference, which seems to me very important, which means that all the governments and all the religious authorities have decided to say, no, that was not a good solution. We don't want violence against America, etc. That's a split which seems to be very important. And that's the main difference, because in the Iranian case, Khomeini at last decided to cover, the attack on the American embassy. In that case, even in France, remember after the demonstration, the Conseil Musulman de France has decided to say, no, we don't have to make demonstrations.
Mohammed Abu Sidra, you're the mediator with some of these hardline brigades, as you call them. Are they expressing regrets to you over what happened?
Well, yes, they were really very serious to regret what has happened and to
including Ansar al-Sharia?
feel sorry for the death of the... Yes, I'm talking precisely on Ansar al-Sharia. And they said to me and on TV that the killing of the ambassador and his companions was a big mistake, shouldn't have happened. And they themselves said it frankly that they have nothing to do with this killing, even with this attack. Now what we have to wait for is to wait for the result of the interrogations and to have really good, strong evidence that if it is a terror attack, who has carried it out? This is the question. Now it became a kind of habit that if any kind of attack like this has taken place, straight away they go first to Islamists, and then they start looking for other to blame for.
All right, we'll pick up on that.
Now we have to wait.
We'll have to wait. We understand that message.
Sorry?
Mohammed Abu Sidra, we're going to have to take a break because but when we come back, we'll pick up on that point. You're watching the France 24 debate.